Hello. What we're going to do today is simplify in expressions using exponents. So I have four things here we're going to look at. Let's start with the top one, x to the third times x squared. Now if you remember what it means to be an exponent, x to the third is the same as x times x times x. Okay, and x squared is the same as x times x. So if we were to put all of that together, multiply together all five of these x's, our result is going to be x to the fifth. So the rule here is, if you remember, that when you are multiplying with like bases, notice both of my bases are x's, the rule here is that, so when multiplying, add exponents. Okay, so that's our first rule. Let's look at the next one. I have n to the fifth divided by n to the third. Now this would be the same as n times n times n times n times n over, on bottom I have n times n times n. So a whole lot of things happen here. We start canceling. So these n's cancel, these n's cancel, these n's cancel. And look what's remaining. We just have two n's on top, that's n squared. What's on bottom? Well, all these canceled, everything becomes a 1 when you divide something by itself. So our final result here is n squared. So the major property here is that when dividing, subtract exponents. Okay, let's turn our attention to the next one. I have a squared to the fourth. So that means a squared multiplied by a squared multiplied by a squared multiplied by a squared. So we end up with, well, I have four things multiplying together, and we already learned this. When multiplying, you add your exponents. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, that gets me 8. So we come up with a to the 8th. So what's the big thing worth noting here? If I have a squared to the fourth, what do I do to the 2 and the 4 to get 8? You multiply them. So when a power is to a power, multiply exponents. All right, and then let's look at the last one. B to the third divided by B to the third. Now there's a couple different ways to look at this. We know that this is going to be the same as, well, the 3 minus the 3 from when we did up here, we're dividing, so we subtract our exponents, we're going to get a result of B to the 0. Okay, the other thing we know is that anytime we divide something by itself, the result is 1. So what we're looking at here is B to the 0 equals 1. And what that tells me, when an exponent is 0, the result is 1. And that's because you're essentially dividing some number by itself, and that's where the 0 exponent comes from. And we're done.